Welcome to the Books, Life, and Shenanigans podcast with your host, Amanda Bird.
Hey friends, today we're going to try something, a little different. No good. Sorry, I'm doubting the wisdom of choosing to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we all know I have a short story series, if you will, and today I'm going to spend the books portion of this podcast reading you the first couple of minutes of this story. Let me give you a little background here. I'm obsessed with Dexter, right? All right, maybe not entirely obsessed, but obsessed enough, right? So I wanted a character to kind of show that appreciation, and her name is Morgan Davis. She is a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I clearly did not think this through when I decided on this 2-monitor setup today, and I'm trying to think of okay, that's probably going to be the way to do it. And now I feel like I look really orange, but that's because it's a different monitor that I'm looking at myself on, and it's just, maybe I just should not look at myself. Okay, so anyway, I probably will have to because I need that timer because my laptop screen is a little small. One day I'm going to have a really cool setup to do all of this. Today is not that day. Anyway, I'm going to read you some of The Girl at the Bottom of the Ocean. It is a Morgan Davis serial, story 1. It's not really a serial, clearly, since I've only got 2 out right now. So there's that. Chapter 1. I pulled the body to the water as best as I could. The moon was glowing behind sheer cloud curtains. The sand was soggy beneath my shoes, which beat dry sand, but only a little. The girl's hair clumped with wet sand the closer I got to the shoreline. The next time I looked down, my feet were losing visibility under the water, along with half of the girl's body. I turned around to look at her. Her face was twisted in a scream, eyes still wide. Her blonde hair was matted to her head. Blood reflected black in the moonlight. She was still beautiful by any standard. By mine, however, she was hideous, inside and out. This girl tried to steal my half-wit husband. He'd told me about the things she'd said to him, hence her trying and him being a half-wit. They'd met in some weird online group on one of the socials, but I didn't care about any of that. I cared about what she wanted and why. It didn't matter to me that he and I had been sort of on the outs. Nothing did. We were still together for too many reasons, kids not being one. He didn't even know I killed people for fun. Sure, we had secrets. This girl probably should have been one of his, but I liked to think they helped keep us together. By then, I was knee-deep in the ocean, and she was waterlogged dead weight. I let go and watched her sink before beginning to trudge my way back. I tripped trying to maneuver between rocks that weren't an issue on my haul out with her body. Back on the beach, I collapsed, drained from killing, carrying, and dragging this girl. Her name was Samantha. She was one of many. My name is Morgan Davis, and I kill people for fun. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick little break here and say this. If you've heard my self-narrated audiobooks for the 13 Reasons for Murder series, you will hear me say a lot that there is it's different to write between audio and for reading, right? It's a lot different. Clearly, this is another story that I hadn't thought of putting in an audio form at all. Honestly, I didn't really think of putting this particular story into audio anything until I kind of ran the idea by another author friend of mine who's got um, a YouTube channel. And I was like, hey man, have you ever done like, I don't know, this? And he's like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, we're about to find out if it goes well. So, I mean, there's that. Also, today's drink of choice is Wawa Diet Green Tea because my local Wawa finally had it in stock and it was the 2 for $5 sale, so I wasn't gonna say no. This is the best diet green tea fucking ever. So there's that. Chapter 2. Samantha met my husband Dom months ago on some fan group online. They talked, along with other people, about common interests. They got to know other members of the group as well as each other. Then she started her shit. Dom claimed ignorance and innocence. He never thought she was real about anything she'd said. Do I believe that? Sort of. He generally didn't realize when a woman was flirting with him anyway. Dom also said he didn't tell her about our marital issues. That part I fully believed. He didn't talk to anyone about us. Me, on the other hand, I always told my friends, generally asking for advice on how to handle certain things. It didn't surprise me that Samantha wanted him. She probably thought she could have herself a sugar daddy. If she only knew that wasn't at all Dom. He loved me no matter what our issues. He wouldn't go anywhere, would he? Was love enough to keep us together? Anyway, Dom told me about her asking him to come see her. It turned out she didn't live far away. Dom even told me her last name and all of the information she'd given him, like her address and phone number. So I did one of the things I do best and went to stalk her. The drive to Samantha's place took around 40 minutes from our house in Tampa. There were no accidents, just the normal amount of traffic. I'd like to compare it to Atlanta, but it's worse there than here. I shut the headlights off as I crept closer to her house. She didn't know me. As far as I knew, she'd only seen old photos of me, so I'd put a hat on before I left the house. I didn't hold too many plans other than what to... And there it is. There it is, Amanda. There's the first mismatch of words. Now I think I understand why narrators actually print out the story on paper. There's a couple I follow on Instagram, and they actually like record some of their more like sample bits, I would call it. I wouldn't call it. Sorry, I have an enormous mosquito bite on my arm and it just started to itch. Anyway, there's a few narrators I follow on Instagram, and they do kind of show like what it's like behind the scenes, which is really cool, right? But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure a lot, if not most or all, well, I can't say all because I don't know all narrators. So I'm going to backpedal a bit there and say I think most. I think most, my opinion, from what I know. They print it out on paper. Here I am trying to read it from the computer, which is what I usually do anyway. And man, some chapters are worse than others, especially when dealing with Brittany Cage. But right now, we're not dealing with Brittany Cage. We're dealing with Morgan Davis. She's a little bit more level-headed. I didn't hold too many plans other than to do what I do best and kill Samantha. Right. Disclaimer. I'm what's called a serial killer. No one knows. Not even Dom. He's a great guy, even if naive. I've killed more than 3 people, most in the same ways. I'm just not that original or creative. What can I say? A parking spot was open right in front of Samantha's house on the opposite side of the street. I saw a shadow figure that I supposed was Samantha. What I knew about her wasn't much to go on. She was single with no pets or kids. She could have had a roommate, but I didn't really know. If Dom did, he didn't tell me, but he'd been so honest since we met, I'd have a tough time believing he'd hide anything from me. He told me everything. That's the kind of relationship we had. I kept my killings to myself, mainly so he really could deny it if I ever got caught. Selfish? Probably. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I saw it as protecting him. The figure moved from one room to the next, then out of sight. I knew I'd be there a while, so I'd told Dom I was going to the movie theater to watch some horror movie I was excited about. He'd kissed me bye, and that was that. He wouldn't be calling or texting for at least 2 more hours. It was just me and Samantha. She had no idea she had company to entertain. The figure came back to the room on the left, plate in hand, and sat down. The windows were closed, so I couldn't hear anything. I hunkered down and grabbed a bottle of water. I had a bag of chips in the car, too. I kept things in my SUV that I'd need to properly stock and kill, chips and drinks included. For the next hour, I watched the figure I correctly assumed was Samantha. The thought that it was her inside was confirmed when she came outside through the garage to place the trash curbside. She wore leggings, an oversized t-shirt, and sneakers. I dressed the same on lazy days at home. That made me a little madder than I already was. She was easily 10 years younger than me, trying to hijack my husband, dressing like me. She hadn't even been born when dressing like that was the thing. Stupid bitch. I kept watching for another 40 minutes. She turned the lights out and I drove off. I stopped at a Wawa near the house for coffee. It was only 9 p.m. and I was having a coffee craving. I drank the stuff all the time anyway, so drinking it now wouldn't have much of an effect on me. I got back in my SUV, turned the key, and chugged the Irish cream and Cuban concoction before pulling out of my parking spot. By the time I got home, Dom was turning his gaming system off. "Hey babe, how was your night?" I set my keys in a dish in the hallway and responded as I set my purse on the same table. "It was good. How was yours?" "Oh, the usual." "Oh, okay. Well, I hope you told the boys I said hi." I wrapped my arms around him in a hug and he returned stronger than mine. I fucked up again. You actually get to hear me make fun of myself and kind of go off on little tangents about the stories in the commentary and outtakes version. And let me tell you, sometimes the outtakes are a trip. But we'll talk about those as soon as I finish this chapter. "Oh, okay. I hope you told the boys I said hi." I wrapped my arms around him in a hug he returned stronger than mine. "I did." He sniffed me, and his face turned into a sad puppy look. "You had Wawa coffee without me." I pulled back and hung my head. "I'm sorry. I figured it might wake you up right about now." "You figured right." He yawned as he spoke and walked out of the living room toward the bedroom. I grabbed a glass of water and followed. Once in bed, the gears in my head started working overtime. How would I kill Samantha? And that about puts us at our time limit because I do want to kind of go off on a little fun tangent here. And that tangent is back to the commentary and outtakes versions of the 13 Reasons for Murder series. I actually just recently wrapped up recording the audio for book number 2, and I will be editing that soon. It is also, both audiobooks are now officially part of my Kickstarter that launched recently as well. I guess I didn't plan on actually bringing that up, but I will also include those links in the description if you want to head over to that as well. But on my website, not only are super cool shirts, well, I'll stand up and show you the shirt later. Not only are, actually, no, I'll stand up and show you now. Super cool shirts. This is another design. Killer mood. Whoop, as I'm knocking shit over. killer mood with a fun knife and some blood. This is also available on my website, also in black. But yeah, so shop.amandabird.net, and audiobooks are there. And both audiobooks are currently available sort of through my Kickstarter. You can just search 13 Reasons for Murder series on Kickstarter or click the link in the description. I'd like to say below, but I'm fully aware that not everyone is watching the YouTube version. Which also, by the way, I caught myself out of the corner of my eye how I read, and I guess I sort of perform while I read, and I make faces and I wave my hands, and yeah, I do this when I'm actually just recording the audio as well. So you guys are getting, if you're watching the YouTube version of this episode, you're getting a little bit more. You're getting a little bit more than others. I don't know if I'm going to read the next chapters in the next episode, or if I'm going to do like a special paid subscriber via Substack only edition of like wrapping the book up, or I haven't figured any of that out yet. So don't ask me what next week's episode is going to contain, because even my notebook doesn't have anything aside for the life topic. So break for our friends. Break Our friends over at Dandy's Candies make some of the greatest candy I have had the pleasure of tasting. When there's new flavors and I run into them, well, it's not that I run into them, they know where I'm going to be. We're friendly like that. Dan has a tendency to say, here, new flavors, try these. I thought about showing off my two of my latest lollipops. One of them would have to be censored, so I cannot show off the pina colada Jesus flavored male anatomy lollipop as much as I'd like to. I may post a picture of that one on my social media somewhere, potentially. If not, you can follow Dandy's Candies on Instagram, Facebook, and their website, dandyscandiesfl.com, as you see in this image. Okay, so on to the life portion of today's episode. Something I think I've mentioned in previous episodes that I actually wanted to kind of talk about a little bit more in depth is burnout. We all go through it. Sometimes we don't realize we're going through it until we are neck deep in that quicksand. It sucks out our energy. It sucks out our want to do anything. Like I know me, I'll sit there and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Like I had goals for this podcast. I'm off this week. I had goals for this podcast. Those goals are, they're not going to be met. And you know what? That's okay. And here's why, because I am finally starting to work my way out of that burnout. There are so many resources out there for burnout, what it is, what it does, warning signs, how to recover. And the advice varies a lot or a little. It depends on, are you sticking with, just this group of people talking about burnout? Are you sticking with this group of people talking about burnout? As a writer, one of my favorite resources for a lot of different things is Becca Syme and her Quitcast and her books that are nonfiction. I didn't realize I was in burnout until I actually read her book, Dear Writer, Are You in Burnout? And then I said, oh shit, not a good place to be, because it's really not. It's for a lot of us, it can be really similar to depression. So you might want to go to a therapist. and see if it really, and, bounce it off of them. See if they think it's something that, okay, it could be, it's depression, or it's burnout. Symptoms can very commonly be the same. You lose your want to do anything. You have zero energy. Even to do something as simple as like do the dishes. You kind of actively avoid doing things you want to do to help you reach your goals. What put me in burnout the first time was back in 2020, I believe it was, maybe 2021. I released 4 books in a year, and I had a lot of pressure on myself, and I'm the kind of person that I can write the book in 2 months, but I need at least a month in between books, and I did not give that to myself, and I'm very deadline oriented, right? Like, so say I put a hard date of, I want this book written by June 30th. I promise you, June 1st is when I'm going to start fucking actually putting that work in and really going at it. I usually, at least in my process, I try to aim for like 10,000 words a week. That actually came from Larry Correa. When I'm actively writing a book, just like when he's actively writing a book, the goal is 10,000 words a week. I don't beat myself up over it if I don't, because usually when I don't, it's a little earlier on in my process, right? So I try to give myself at least, a full quarter to get a book written, because there's going to be those weeks where something happens, shit hits the fan. You're just running to and from and doing a bazillion different things. So add to that the stress of a deadline. I've actually changed a lot of things after reading this burnout book. I don't make commitments I cannot keep. I don't make commitments that I think I cannot keep, especially when it comes to my books and my readers. We won't talk about the day job because, half of that is commitments I'm not always able to keep. Just the nature of the beast and the job that I do for the day job. And that day job is actually what has put me into burnout this time around. And I saw the warning signs months ago, 6 months ago, 5 months ago. I saw these warning signs. And I knew it was going to happen if I was continuously being pushed the way that I was being pushed. Now we're here. I think I've had 3 or 4, maybe 5 breakdowns. No, probably about 6. 2 of which were while I was working the day job. I can't say at work because I work from home. So while I was doing that, couple breakdowns there, couple breakdowns off the clock. It's just been quite literally redlined since December, and it fucking sucks. I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. There is nothing that, maybe not nothing. There are some things that I can do to lessen that red line, and maybe instead of 9,000 RPM, bring it down to like 8,500. Unfortunately, there is far too much out of my control with what I do, so I'm really trying hard to focus on what I can control. And that's also my attitude toward my job. When it comes to writing, it's kind of the same thing. Focus on what you can control. Now, once you're there in burnout and you're in burnout, then we start to talk about recovery strategies, right? And Becca has the best way I have ever heard it explained. So we all operate on this thing called energy pennies, right? On this theory that she calls energy pennies. We can only spend so many energy pennies on each different activity before we're energy penny broke. And we have to do things to replenish those energy pennies, right? So, I will say this round of burnout is nowhere near as bad as my last one. Now, this time I'm also in the middle of a divorce and trying to recover from, damn it, I hate saying this. I am trying to recover from the narcissistic abuse that I suffered. So that combined with burnout has presented, we'll call it an interesting challenge. I say interesting challenge because I've been through a lot of shit in my life, and I'm sure you have too, right? These two things combined were never even imagined in my wildest dreams. I kind of knew, one day I'd go through burnout again. Didn't think I'd ever be a survivor of that trauma, though. So still trying to work my way through that and also work my way out of that burnout. I am now trying to produce like double the amount of energy pennies because I'm finding with my energy kind of divided and my brain and my focus kind of divided. I need to spend almost double the amount of energy pennies just to focus right now. Hopefully, so that's why like the goals that I had for this podcast and them not happening this week, I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. Why? Because I'm taking the time that I need to replenish my energy pennies, or as others would call it, rest and recharge. Fucking hate that saying. But not a lot of people are familiar with the concept of energy pennies. So shout out to Becca. Lots of love and hugs for everything you do for the author community. And I honestly look forward to taking some courses. But yeah, like, so part of the thing that Becca does is she's a Clifton Strengths coach. So I did take the test, but I only got my top 5. And constantly being reminded of my top 5 and being where I'm at mentally and emotionally right now presents an extra special challenge because of my top 5 strengths being what they are. I tend to get myself in over my head when it comes to my book work. When it comes to people, I apparently have a tendency and a natural disability to attract those who aren't good. Maybe they're good for somebody, but I don't understand how someone being manipulative and gaslighting is good for anyone. But yeah, I tend to, attract these sorts of things, and it's it's interesting, infuriating, frustrating, all of it. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. Lately, just given where I am at, I'm like, this is bullshit, fuck this. Like, I don't think my top 5 is great, but then I'm like, it can be so great. So yeah, I need to learn more about these strengths and then kind of go from there, and figure out, what other ways I can begin to embrace this top 5. And it's funny because I did embrace it for a really long time, and now I look at it, and after reading some things that Becca had posted, I'm like, now it all really starts to come full circle, right? It starts to really make sense. And I'm just like, well, shit. Rest easy, Alvin. Well, shit. Now what? So yeah, every time I say, well, shit, like that, I do kind of close my eyes and take a moment for my friend who passed away about a year ago. Well, shit was one of his favorite things to say, and we used to just kind of joke about it a lot. So yeah, that's that. And now we're going to take a break. Sponsored by, if you will, shop.amandabird.net. Take a look at the t-shirt designs. browse the books, paperback, ebook, audiobook. Those are there too. So yeah, shop.amandabird.net. And here is this episode's shirt once again. Okay, hopefully I didn't step on myself or something. I'm trying something new with editing this time around. So yeah, uh, it's specifically for the YouTube channel that I'm trying something new with the editing instead of just kind of sticking with the format that I've already done. This is going to be really, really fucking interesting, and yeah. I look forward to probably cussing out Adobe Rush, calling myself names a few times, like, "Oh, hey, you forgot how to do that. Duh." Um, I'm working away from, calling myself a dummy and an idiot and things like that because insulting myself is not the best. Now, self-deprecating humor, totally different story, right? Because we're all guilty of that. I would go so far as to say, like, everyone I know has a little bit of self-deprecating humor, as well as a whole lot of sarcasm. It's funny because they say that sarcasm isn't just a coping mechanism; it's also it's born out of trauma. Well, we're all fucked then, like all of us. I don't know anyone who's not sarcastic. I've never met anyone who's not sarcastic, and yeah. Yeah. So I'm just trying to be better to me because me being better to me is going to show other people that they need to be better to me too, or peace out. Ain't got time. So on to this week's shenanigans. I kind of want to tie this into the life portion of today's episode. So basically what the shenanigans is, it's a challenge, right? So I want you to pick out a book to read this year. Just this year. As long as you finish it by December 31st, you got plenty of time. But here's my challenge to you. Pick out a book to read this year that is fiction. The main character experiences burnout or slowly goes insane. And tell me what book you chose. Because I could always use more recommendations. Hell, maybe we could do a book club or something. If I'm like, oh, heck yes, are there other people who want to read this? Yeah, cool, let's do a book club. Also, I might just add it to my TBR for the year. I mean, not that pile is actually getting smaller. Not fast enough, but it's getting smaller. For those of you who are not watching the YouTube channel, my TBR pile is a shelf in my bookshelf behind me, and I'm pointing to it, staring at it like, shit, gotta read faster. Fun fact, reading is actually something I do to refill my energy pennies. I will say this, my favorite story of someone slowly going insane is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I enjoy it so, so much. The Netflix story Ratched, the Netflix show, don't know if you've seen it. Sarah Paulson she's awesome. Like, she's great. If Ryan Murphy ever loses her, I will maybe never watch anything he does again. I'm kidding. A lot of his stuff is really good. But Ratched talks about her before she met Jack Nicholson's character. Another super fun fact about that is I have never read that book. I've only seen the movie about a bazillion times, and I actually got to write a paper on it. Well, was it paper? Let me think here. No, it wasn't a paper, but I did have, oh no, it was a paper. I had an assignment for my second abnormal psychology class because I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. Not only did I take abnormal psych twice, I took stats twice. Who the fuck does that? Who takes statistics twice? Twice! I wasn't required to take it the second time, but I was like, oh man, I loved it the first time. Y'all, do not recommend 2 thumbs down. Don't fucking do it unless you absolutely love math. I will say I still get giggle fits over Poisson distribution because it's quite literally the fish distribution. And it just makes me giggle because also every time I read the words Poisson distribution or my professor said it in one of her videos, all I could hear was les poissons, hee hee ha ha ha. And I'm talking about the cartoon. I haven't seen the live action and I have zero desire to see the live action. I'm just one of those who prefers the cartoons. Like they were made as cartoons. They should stay as cartoons. I think. At least where a lot of Disney stuff is concerned. Because everything they turn into live action just doesn't end well. So, yes. I have also added One Flew Over to my TBR for the year. May not be read this year. May potentially scooch over into 2023. It really depends on what the rest of the year shapes up to look like. I do still have a couple of books to release, a short story or two, probably another audiobook. So yeah, it's all fun and games until Amanda starts to lose her shit. No, I'm kidding. That's fairly frequent. Okay. I'm kidding again. Amanda doesn't lose her shit frequently. I think it depends on what the topic is if Amanda's going to lose her shit. Like if we're talking Star Wars, yes. Especially if we're talking the rise of Sky Trash and anything Kathleen Kennedy is involved in. But I do that on a different show, so I'm not going to do that on this one. So let me reread the criteria for the TBR challenge this year. 1, fiction. 2, main character experiences burnout or slowly goes insane. 3, tell me what you chose. I may or may not respond with what I chose, just as kind of like a reiteration. I'm still kind of mulling over this in my head if I'm going to wait to respond or if I'm going to tell you the book that I've chosen because I have already chosen it. I'm not entirely sure. It's entirely related to like the main character experiencing burnout or particularly slowly going insane. It's more like narrative rewriting, if you will, but every search, every differently worded search I did brought up this book. So I'm going to give it a shot. Screw it. I'll tell you what my book is. My book is called That's Not What Happened. The author is Kirby. What is her name? Oh no, where is it? Okay, so I apparently closed that tab on my phone. There it is. I'm sorry, Cody. Jeez, way off there. Cody Keplinger. That's Not What Happened. Short little Amazon description here says, it's been 3 years since the Virgil County High School massacre. 3 years since my best friend Sarah was killed in a bathroom stall during the mass shooting. Everyone knows Sarah's story, that she died proclaiming her faith. But it's not true. I know because I was with her when she died. I didn't say anything then, and people got hurt because of it. Now, Sarah's parents are publishing a book about her, so this might be my last chance to set the record straight. But I'm not the only survivor with a story to tell about what did and didn't happen that day. Except Sarah's martyrdom is important to a lot of people. People who don't take kindly to what I'm trying to do. And the more I learn, the less certain I am about what's right. I don't know what will be worse, the guilt of staying silent or the consequences of speaking up. Now, clearly it's not about someone actually like slowly going insane. but the premise sounds good, so I'll probably add it to my TBR anyway, and then just pick up One Flew Over as my book for the Shenanigans Challenge. So do me a favor, drop me in the comments or email me what books. Has to be fiction. Has to be fiction. Too many nonfiction resources out there. And I've got my favorites. I mean, having extras will never hurt me. But I do have my favorites, and I'm kind of a weirdo about it. But I'm specifying fiction on purpose. Yeah. So if there is a book about Shutter Island, I mean, you could go with that one too. They don't particularly slowly go insane, but if you've seen the movie, you know that he feels like he's slowly going insane. So that one will qualify if there's a book about it, or a book that it's based on. But yeah, fiction, main character experiences burnout or slowly goes insane. And then drop me a comment or email me, amanda.bird.books@gmail.com, and let me know. That is my email address for now, for the podcast. I do have the business email, amanda@amandabird.net. You could send the emails over to that as well. I'm just trying to sort of kind of keep things a little bit more separate, at least for now. And then probably mush everything into one, which is probably a bad idea. Probably easier to keep everything in one and then break it all up. But whatever. Shoot me an email at either email address or drop it in the comments which book you are going to read this year. And I promise you, I'm going to be keeping up on these comments and emails, because I'm always looking for things to add to my never-ending TBR. Like, let's face it, that's what a TBR is, right? We're never going to get all the way through it, and we know it. We accept that as readers. We're good. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we will chat again next week.
This has been the Books, Life, and Shenanigans podcast with Amanda Bird. Song credit, audionautics.com. Intro action, AUDIONAUTIX.com. And if you'd like to support this podcast, head over to substack.com/@Books, Life, and Shenanigans.